Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. As you can hear, I sound a little bit congested and under the weather. Yeah, I got whatever that bug is going around, and we're going to cover a little bit of the news on that super bug, as they're coining it and phrasing it. But first, let's get into our kids' corner.
All big house, cool gadgets, fancy clothes. But she always wanted more. Was something missing in her heart? Let's find out in Sunnyvale. Grandma Rose baked cookies and smiled. Bailey, let's visit the thank you tree to count blessings. Bailey shrugged. What could a tree teach her? At the park, the thank you tree glowed with ribbons. Each one's a blessing, Grandma said. Bailey watched, curious. Could she find something to thank? Grandma gave Bailey a blue ribbon. Thank your family, she said. Bailey tied it to the tree and felt a spark of joy. Was this what gratitude felt like? Bailey heard folks thank a sunny day, a kind friend. Her eyes opened. She had so much to be thankful for. Could she find more blessings to count? Bailey came back every day, tying ribbons for friends, her home, even her favorite song. Each thank you made her heart lighter. Gratitude was magic. Bailey taught kids to thank their blessings. Her heart was full. No matter how much you have, saying thank you.
Yes, and that's something that we definitely need to remember to take into the new year. Just being thankful and grateful for what we have. It kind of stinks being sick, and it happened. I took care of my wonderful grandson, and he had the flu. And so in turn, I caught it, and I'm really not mad because I really haven't been sick like this really since 2020. Like I've shared with you guys before, I've gotten, like small colds here and there, less than maybe 1 or 2 days. Excuse me. It's been, I'd say, close to 7 days now that I've had this, but I'm on the good side of it, you know, doing my peroxide protocol, iodine, um, nose, what is it, like the little nose inhaler with iodine. What else have I done? I didn't have to do too much gargling, which I'm grateful for. My throat got a little bit sore, but not bad. I never felt like I couldn't talk because I know a lot of people experience like a raging sore throat. So I'm very grateful I didn't get that because I got that in 2020 and that was not fun at all. So yeah, if you guys are going through it, and I'll definitely be praying for you, but it is something that you can get over. Did take a little bit of NyQuil. I think I took like 1 dose of NyQuil, about 4 Dayquil tablets, about 3 ibuprofen. That was about it for the medicines like that. Otherwise, just drinking fluids and teas. I did do like a green juice that I made, and the green juice is definitely helping me to feel better, and helping me flush some toxins out of my body. So, just remember when you do get sick, it is a good time to just try to do the green juices and, lots of fluids and just flush out your body. But again, um, peroxide protocol, if you know, you can use the peroxide spray bottles, spray a little bit in your mouth, um, and then soak some Q-tips in a little bit of peroxide and water. You can swab in your nose because the cold lives in here in our sinus passages. And so once we are able to get rid of that, it can all get out of our bodies. But again, praying for anybody out there who's been sick over the holidays. And for those of you that avoided it, I'm so grateful you did. You're not missing a thing. You really, really aren't. And with that, let's get into honoring God with our body. So, God, please protect our mind and guard our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect my ears and help me listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve you generously. God, help me to do good to everyone and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please help me protect my reproductive organs. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet and help us to walk in your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you're just joining us here today, that is something that we say daily on this show. It is how to honor our bodies, how to honor God with our bodies. And my that's something my pastor had put together. And my bod for God. That is his short phrase for that. Now, this first video we're going to get into, this is JD Vance, and he was at the Turning Point Amerifest that recently happened. And I'm just going to play the part of the clip that I found really interesting.
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
That was it. It was just that part. And I was like, "What? Who are these Caucasian people apologizing? Huh? What?" Yeah. Yeah. Apparently there are Caucasian people apologizing for being white, so much so that JD Vance had to make a point of it. And I was like, "Okay, so are we discriminating against white people?" And it really kind of boggled my mind because I was like, "Okay, if you're apologizing for being white," and I have heard of the phrase white guilt, right? Again, I find it fascinating because it seems like it's a power dynamic in essence. Um, because people are realizing, hey, I live here too, and I don't have to kowtow to people based on the color of their skin, no matter the color of their skin, right? Because if we're all created equal, then we're all created equal. Then nobody is over another set or group, right? Or underneath a group. Okay. So that means everybody should be able to look everybody in the eye and give it to them straight, period. No one should feel like they are beneath another person if we are all created equal. So again, I found it fascinating how he says you no longer have to apologize for being white. And I was just like, wow, that's interesting because now, we get to have the race conversation because you brought race into this. And race in this country is a caste system. So what are you saying? you know and the caste system is white people are on the top and black people are on the bottom. I mean, it is what it is. You may not like it, but it is what it is. And my whole thing is, I'm like, okay, are we having this conversation because white men, maybe in particular, are feeling challenged? Are you feeling challenged? Are you feeling like I no longer have the superior ground to stand on and to look at somebody else and say, you're not morally correct, you're not this, you're not that, and I'm the bar, I'm the standard, and you're not. Is that what we're saying? Or are you saying what? It's weird because nobody should have to apologize for who they are in this country if all men are created equal. So for you to say you no longer have to apologize for being white, some people may call that a dog whistle. Some people may have another issue with it. I find it a very interesting talking point, especially because you're the vice president, and a lot of people are looking for you to run in 2028. That line has alienated a ton of people. And trust me, they will use it. They will clip it. They will make a whole advertisement out of it. If you did anything, especially at TPUSA, if you did anything, because they claim to be a Christian organization, you should have reminded everybody that all men are created equal and that we have been going through a lot of racial disparities with people feeling superior or unsuperior or, you know, discriminated against, right? And really saying, you know what? We need to remember that all men are created equal. And no one should ever have to apologize about being who they are because all men are created equal. Now, if you did that, nobody can mess with you. But you didn't. You made this about race. You did that. Nobody did that to you. No one put those words in your mouth, but now we're here. So we'll see how this pans out. I'm just saying. So I went to Grok because I wanted to, kind of flush this out a little bit. Just trying to get to where is he coming from with this? And he says he celebrates a Trump administration's actions, including ending federal DEI, right? Programs which he describes as discriminatory. He says in the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. And contrast with this with prior policies that he claims treated people differently based on race or sex. Okay. He tries this to a broader emphasis on merit, hard work, and rejecting identity based preferences, while extending the point to other groups, Asians no longer needing to downplay their ethnicity in college applications. They haven't been, but okay. Vance's core argument is that certain policies like DEI and race conscious affirmative action created anti-white discrimination, and the Trump administration's elimination of them has restored fairness, so white people no longer need to feel apologetic or disadvantaged for their race. Y'all are not disadvantaged. What? Have y'all seen mass firings of any white people anywhere? I no. And the incidents that you're talking about were very isolated. Good morning. They're isolated. And my whole thing is this. You're still making this a race issue. And at the same time trying to claim the moral high ground. I'm like, what? Now, and I was like, okay, does this argument have merit? Well, the claim has limited empirical support, basically meaning that we don't have enough data. Okay. When viewed against broader data in systemic discrimination in the US. So there's no evidence of widespread anti-white discrimination. Because again, I'm like, what are you talking about? So studies and surveys consistently show that white Americans, particularly white men, remain advantaged in most areas of life, including wealth, employment, education, and criminal justice outcomes. For instance, polling finds white people report lower rates of personal discrimination than Black, Latino, or Asian Americans. Claims of systemic anti white bias often rely on isolated cases rather than broad patterns. Oh, happy birthday to, oh, I want to make sure I do this right. Gone Clav Priscilla. Gone Clavs Priscilla. Happy birthday. So this is interesting. Now, affirmative action and DEI, and this is where it gets interesting. Now, these were intended to address historical and ongoing disparities, Black and Hispanic applicants facing hiring biases despite identical qualifications. Now, the one thing with DEI is that it actually ties back to an ESG score, which ties back to the whole United Nations things. And in essence, the ESG score, if you can imagine it being almost like a FICO score, companies scored higher if they used DEI hiring practices. Okay. So DEI wasn't just this standalone thing, it actually was a part of a larger mechanism under the ESG scores. But again, that's like a whole nother conversation, but that's the short of it, right? Now, while some programs considered race as one factor, they rarely involved quotas. And white women have historically been amongst the biggest beneficiaries of such initiatives. So, again, what are we talking about? The 2023 Supreme Court ruling in Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard ended race-based college admissions, but it did not find evidence of widespread anti-white discriminations. Its focus was more on impacts on Asian applicants. So again, what are we talking about? And a lot of Asians, they actually claim white in certain instances. But yeah, what? The apologize for being white framing, this is largely rhetorical and not reflective of any widespread cultural or legal requirement. No major institution or policy has demanded apologies for whiteness. The phrase echoes long-standing conservative critiques of white guilt or woke culture, but it often serves to amplify perceptions of grievance rather than address documented harms. Yeah. So, in short, while Vance highlights a real political debate about merit versus diversity initiatives, and some critics argue certain DEI implementations went too far, the evidence does not support the idea that white people as a group face systemic discrimination comparable to minorities. The argument resonates more as a cultural message to conservative audiences than as a fact-based claim about American society. And that's pretty much sums up where I'm coming from with this. It's like, stop that. Nobody's like poo-pooing on y'all. And you just saw white women actually, we no longer have to apologize for being white. But that's the thing. That's the thing. Have you met anybody apologize to you for being white? Stop that. Stop it. It just, you sound crazy when you say things like that. Vance, Vice President Vance, you sound strange, sir. Do you apologize for being white when you talk to your Indian wife? Because she's not white by racial standards. But again, she might say that she's white on the application because she's Indian. I'm just saying they tend to gravitate towards whiteness. That's the thing. I'm just saying. It's weird. Stop that. Because you had the opportunity to actually bridge the gap. And now you've made this about race. Like I said, the Democrats, like these are gifts to the Democrats in 2028. I'm just saying. It is. And it's silly that he did something like that. I don't know who wrote that script for him, It just was a bad move, in my opinion. Like I said, I just, we're back. This is a recap of, some news that's happened because I've been off air since last Wednesday. I'm glad to be back. I'm still not feeling 100%, but I'm getting there on the other side of this cold. But I found it absolutely hilarious that he was just like, yeah, we no longer have to apologize for being white. What? Who's making you do this? Where is this happening? What? Who's doing this? Like, I need a video. If you guys know of any videos where white people are apologizing for being white, I need to see it. I need to see it because this is weird. Because if all men are created equal, use that as an opportunity to remind us that we are. You use that opportunity to remind us that we're not. Because now you're playing the victim in a system that elevates you. How is that possible? But hey, 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 I think you're learning from some people. I think you're learning from the best. Just saying. Okay, now we're gonna move on. Um okay. Mm, uh, I know. Thanks, Janice Farmer. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know he was a never Trumper. Like 10 toes down. Yeah. Like I said, this is a gift to the Democratic Party. There's an attack on Christianity. Okay, look. Right now, as a Christian, I'm not oppressed. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. I feel very free. It's very freeing being a Christian because here's the deal. Regardless of the church that I go to, the people I'm around, my relationship with God is mine and it's solid. And it's not contingent upon anybody else. Now, Jesus already said that you are going to be persecuted for my sake. So, what are we talking about? Why are we complaining? When you get persecuted, you are supposed to take that as a badge of honor and be grateful that somebody actually did persecute you for doing what was right. Yeah, it is kind of weird. So, now we are going to get into, yeah, y'all, the fraud. It's so bad. Okay. So I know I played this about a week ago. I'm going to play it again just to go over, and it was inserted into another video. So I wanted to play this particular video again because this is another set of fraud that they have found in Minnesota. And I know Nick Shirley, he has done a great job exposing some more of the fraud going on in Minnesota. So this is not a Nick Shirley video, it's a little bit different. But I definitely just want to say thank you and shout out to Nick Shirley. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep exposing what's going on and keeping us, the American public, informed.
Local realtor reached out to me to tell me about another way that Somalians are scamming Minnesotans out of their taxpayer dollars. In her community alone, Somalians have bought up over 455 homes. They buy these homes claiming they're turning these homes into home health care centers. She says the way we know Somalians have bought these homes is because all of a sudden extremely nice cars start showing up. Mercedes, BMWs, the nicest cars are parked in the driveway. And she said by law, the state will not come out and inspect these homes and make sure these homes even have clients living.
She said by law, the state will not come out and inspect these homes. Now, that's weird. Now, with her saying that, it now makes sense what Nick Shirley has been saying, or not saying, but it makes sense now because there have been countless, I think he said he found like $110 million in fraud just going around with this other gentleman had found the fraud and they kind of teamed up. He was like, what about this business? What about, you know what I'm saying? They just kind of did their thing. But if the state has basically put in policies that say you can't even go and inspect some of these areas, that's crazy.
In these homes. She also said, as a realtor, she cannot disclose to people wanting to buy homes in this neighborhood that Somalians have bought that home and they're using that as a home health care center. She said these homes can even take people in who've just been released from jail, and the neighborhood does not need to know about this. But she says many of these homes do not even have clients in them. But the state is writing them checks every month for the clients that the Somalians say are in these homes, and these Somalians are making millions of dollars off of these homes every year. The Somalians have figured out exactly the perfect plan as to how to scam Minnesota taxpayers out of their money. They are banking on this, making millions of dollars, and the government here in Minnesota is too lazy to go and check it out and to see if there's even clients living in these homes. The fraud in Minnesota is so deep. Let me know your thoughts on this one.
Yeah. And someone in the comments says, so they're like the child care centers with no kids. Yeah. And the sad part is if they're using these as they're not called halfway houses. I won't call them that, but I would say temporary housing facilities for people who have just been released from prison. That is something as a neighbor, you should know if someone has just been released from jail who's in your actual vicinity and neighborhood. Are they requiring these people to register with the state? And if they are, some people can't be around children, within so many hundreds or thousands of feet, and they should be in violation of having these people in these houses. But if no one's doing the inspections, if no one's manning the store, Minnesota, y'all, you know what? I'm glad all this fraud is coming out because it's letting us know the level of criminality. And again, like I've said, this is on the inside. This is on the interior of their government. This isn't the exterior. The people applying for this, they're benefiting, but somebody on the inside is taking the applications and they're pushing the button and they're allowing this. Yeah, that's the question. You're saying who's letting them do this. For example, if you are tried, we wouldn't get away with it. It's totally somebody on the inside. Not only would we not get away with it, we would be under the jail. Come on. Come on. What? What? Anybody else doing this, especially an American citizen, would be under the prison because they have a microscope on us for everything. But the refugees, you don't. And here's the thing about refugees that, kind of stands out. They are not required to assimilate. They're not. They can come here as a refugee, apply for American citizenship because they've been here for so long. Their path to citizenship is completely different. They don't have to assimilate. This is why Minnesota looks the way it looks. And I saw a video, as I was putting everything together, and there was the lady on TikTok, and she was just like, yeah, they've come over here. Minnesota's gone. It's just lost. No, it's not. Minnesota belongs to America. We will save Minnesota. We will get these people up off the soil. Look, they got to go. You got to go. You can't be here committing all this fraud and sending remittances back. And no, you have to go. So a lot of these people are going to be going to prison. Prison. If you committed fraud the way this fraud has been committed, you're going to go to jail. And the people on the inside pushing the button are going to go to jail as well, because that's it. And Minnesota will recover from this because all this fraud goes on everywhere. And it isn't just refugees. It isn't just people that are non-citizens. There's a lot of fraud going on. And it's Americans involved in it. Trust me. Again, it's the people on the inside. And you can't put refugees in a racist category because they don't play the race game. Okay, they're ethnicities. That's it. They don't even get to play the race game. So yeah, there's no racism involved with them. So we can't even have that conversation. It's a no. It's a no. Yeah. But if they're fraudulent, they're fraudulent. That's the bad part. Yeah, and I hear where you're coming from. Yeah, it's sad that a lot of these people committing the fraud, they seem untouchable, but there's always going to be somebody that goes down for it. It's sad. So I wanted to bring up this. So I did ask, is there a policy in Minneapolis when inspections can be done? Yes, and they do have a inspection code for houses between 8 and 8, which makes sense. Okay, they've got that. And I said that there's a complaint that certain properties owned, rented, or leased by those in the Somali community are being treated differently when it comes to the inspections. And it says, yes, there are documented complaints, reports, and legal actions highlighting differential treatment in housing related matters, including inspections and code enforcement that disproportionately affect the Somali community in Minneapolis. While not all focus exclusively on city led inspections, they often tie into broader issues of discrimination, standard conditions, and uneven enforcement of housing codes. Interesting. So general housing discrimination against Somalis. So Somali immigrants and refugees in the Twin Cities face barriers in accessing rental housing due to factors like ethnicity, skin color, religion, lack of U.S. credit or rental history, and large families. Landlords have been reported to reject applications based on Somali names or perceived cultural differences despite fair housing laws prohibiting such practices. The discrimination extends to exploitative practices where landlords overcharge rents, ignore maintenance requests, or rent out substandard units. That's cool. That's not cool. Exploiting vulnerabilities like limited English proficiency or fear of reporting issues. Now, specific complaints include racial profiling by neighbors and landlord in Somali concentrated neighborhoods, leading to tensions and potential displacement. Overcrowding is common due to average household size of around 3.9 people, forcing families into inadequate or unsafe spaces, with landlords failing to accommodate cultural needs. Low median incomes around $14,000 to $20,000 annually. A long waiting list for subsidized housing exacerbate reliance on problematic private rentals. And this is another issue. A lot of these people are on government assistance as well. So, yeah, we can't keep taking people in and putting them on welfare, because a lot of time these people stay on welfare anywhere from 8 to 10 years. A decade, and you can't find a job, you are not self-sufficient. It's very, very crazy. So they are counting on secrecy and hiding behind locked doors. People need to be out there making a fuss, bringing attention to it. Yeah. And I'm grateful Nick Shirley is, I think one of his videos got over like 80 million views or something like that, which is good because a lot of this stuff needs to be brought to light. And like I said, it's not just a Somali community. It's not just in Minnesota. It's in other places. Now, I want to definitely check out this next video because this is happening in Ohio.
Somalians have it figured out in Columbus. I went to the Walmart on Georgesville to see if I could see people filling their carts or just kind of see what I could see. It's not the way they do it. They've got it figured out way better than that. Every single Somali restaurant has a grocery store right next door or within eyeshot of the restaurant. The specific one I went into today had it attached to the restaurant. And wow, what an adventure that was. Stay tuned for more on that. Anyways, the grocery store and the restaurant were the same building. So they don't have to go to a Walmart or a Sam's Club or a Costco necessarily. They can just order everything they need to their grocery store that's right next to or attached to the restaurant that they also own, and never have to fill a single cart. And I guarantee you, if you looked at the records of those grocery stores, they lose tons of money every year, and it's probably used as a tax write-off because those groceries are being funneled into those restaurants, with a daycare center on the opposite side. And that's the common trend you'll see. There's restaurants, grocery stores, and daycare centers, and also home health care businesses. I can't forget the home health care businesses. Nakia was absolutely right. And the reason for the daycare centers I found out while I was at Walmart. 3/4 of the workers I saw working in Walmart, especially the cashiers, were Somali women. You gotta figure, if you have 2 or 3 wives that you don't have to claim, these women can go work at Walmart full time for $15 an hour and still qualify for food stamps as long as they have a couple kids, which you can guarantee you they at least have 2 kids. Hell, they average 7. Or same story as working as a home health care aide. They have most definitely figured out the system and how to take advantage of it. And Columbus doesn't break down its numbers like Minnesota, but if anything like the 88% of the Somali community is on social services in Columbus, I can only imagine how deep the fraud is. So I'm changing tactics and going back up Monday, and I have a couple ideas to see if I can't sniff a few things out.
Yeah, but I brought this up actually a few weeks ago. You know, when people culturally, right, when they practice polygamy. Now, I do have people in my life that do practice the religion of Islam. They are Muslim, right? Know them personally. And this wasn't when I was living in California. The difference between what I've heard and seen happening in places like Minnesota and all these other places in California, they stated, and this is how, like I said, these were the Muslims that I ran into. It was like, if a man cannot financially take care of more than one wife, he can't have one. Meaning they couldn't be on welfare. And he had to supply everything. Like if he had 3 wives, he had to supply everything to all those 3 wives. And he had to make that money. There was no, okay, you're going to get on welfare and you're going to, no. Now, if the women wanted to work, that's fine. But he had to be able to afford to have more than one wife. Now, the way some of these people are practicing it, and they've got multiple wives, in which they are quote unquote spiritual wives, right? They're not wives in the sense of, you know, how should I say, on paper, right? Legal. They're not legal wives because we do not practice polygamy. Actually, some people do practice polygamy. Is Latter-day Saints, LDS? Yeah, they practice it a lot in Utah. They do marry 9-year-olds. It's scary, right? But we don't want to talk about that. We'll talk about that on another show. Okay, but anyway, back to this situation. You get multiple wives, and then you have people generating an income, but not too much of an income so they can still get welfare. And that's the game. I think there was one incident where a gentleman, I think it's got to either be Maine or Massachusetts. He owned a store and he had multiple wives, and he was using I think they were using the state to supply the convenience store they had with food, right? Because they could just take the EBT card and buy the food and supply the store. Now, polygamy is practice, right? I'm just saying, if you're going to practice polygamy, practice it in the right way. Don't marry 9-year-olds, first of all. I don't care if you're LDS, Muslim, whatever. Don't do that. And if you're going to have multiple wives, have the ability to take care of them, or they have the ability to take care of themselves without being on state assistance, right? You've got to be able to stand on your own. The problem is the enforcement of the 1996 bill that did state if people are over here from a foreign country and they are applying for citizenship, right? It didn't cover refugees and asylum seekers. It just said for people seeking citizenship, they needed to be able to take care of themselves and they were not allowed to apply for any state aid or assistance. That's coming back into effect at the first of the year. So a lot of these people on aid right now, it's going to be going away. A lot of these people who are asylum seekers and refugees, all this money is about to stop and dry up. It's not going to be a thing. It really isn't. And people need to know that. I think they need to be reminded of it. Now, this next video, we're going to get into some different type of fraud.
Cash back. Okay, this is the last straw. You see, if y'all not tired of Nigerians, I'm fucking tired of Nigerians now. I just heard on the news, I read an article saying the UK government is sending back thousands of nurses in the medical field, thousands of nurses in the UK back to Nigeria because of illegal activities and false certificates. There's a lady in the UK who has come out to confess that where she went to do her board exam or where she went to do her certificate is fraudulent. And now they've been investigating since 2023 just to find out that some of these nurses, before they take these exams, there's somebody in Nigeria that is sitting for them, representing them, taking these exams online. What is going on, Nigerians? Why is Nigeria in every news? Now the UK government is sending thousands of nurses in the medical field in the UK. They're sending them back to Nigeria. And everybody that took that exam in that center is going to be investigated and sent back to Nigeria. Why are Nigerians not doing things the right way, man? Why are you people taking shortcuts? Not in the medical field. You want to kill people? How you doing fraudulent stuff? How you falsifying certificate to be a nurse when you know you're going to be taking care of people, human beings, not animals? How you going to be injecting, assessing human beings with a falsified certificate? So the UK government is investigating every nurse in the UK. And right now, they have thousands of nurses that are being sent back now to Nigeria, being deported back to Nigeria. Why are Nigerians in every bad things? Please, can somebody explain? Nigerians, we're supposed to be the giant of Africa, right? Why we turn around Nigerians doing crazy shit? How you want to be a nurse? Go to school. Study. You want to be taking care of people. Now you wonder why a lot of foreigners don't trust Africans that are in the medical field. Now the woman that has come to confess that she did not take that exam by herself, she confessed she did not sit for it. She confessed she did not. Now she's making the UK government investigate everybody that took that exam in that very center. Now, the UK government will have no choice but to investigate every nurse that is a Nigerian in the UK due to fraudulent activities. What is going on, Nigerians, man? Why are we always in the news for negative stuff? So if you're a nurse right now, you're watching me, you're in the UK, what is going on? Is it true? I read it in the news. I read an article about this whole situation. Why are Nigerians always in the news for negative stuff? Now is the medical field, nurses, having somebody in Nigeria sitting for them, writing exams for them. And now some lady came out to confess. I didn't sit for it. I bought the certificate. I paid somebody to sit for me. Now she confessed all that. It affected thousands of nurses now that are Nigerians in the UK. What is the problem? What is going on? Please, before you turn around, the US will want to investigate nurses in the US. Now it's the UK deporting nurses in the UK that falsify their certificates. Nigerians, this is not looking good. It's not. From TikTok to immigration in the US, now it's the nurses in the UK medical field. This is not good.
Wow. And he's not wrong. And that's the sad part, because what about the nurses from Nigeria that did the work, right? That did go to school, that did get the certificates. I mean, in my opinion, they don't have anything to fear, but they're going to feel harassed, right? They're going to be like, hey, you better show documentation that you actually did this. Because if they find out that it's from what I want to say, they call them like degree farms or there's some type of a term like that. And so I took the time just to kind of look to see what he was talking about, right? And so it says Nigerian nurses working in or applying to work in the UK have faced investigations and potential deportations due to suspicions of fraud in their competency test, specifically the computer-based test, CBT, required for registration with the UK's Nursing and Midwifery Council. The fraud centered on a test in Ibadan, Nigeria, where anomalous data suggested proxy test taking on an industrial scale. Wow. This led to visa revocations by the Home Office, even for nurses with pending appeals, resulting in orders to leave the UK. The issue has affected hundreds to thousands of nurses, causing job losses, legal battles, and threats of judicial review. While some nurses have successfully appealed, many have been removed from the NMC register or had applications refused. The NMC maintains case-by-case assessments emphasizing evidence of fraud patterns. Wow, so this started back in 2023. So this is a couple years old. Anomalous sorry, I'm having trouble with that word. Data from Unique Technologies Test Center in Ibadan, Nigeria, triggers an investigation, right? That was in May of 2023. In July, due to security concerns, they suspend testing of nearly 50 test centers worldwide. Okay, September of 23, the NSC confirms widespread fraud at a Nigerian test center. So they were able to pinpoint it. 2023 to 2024, NMC identifies 48 current registrants and 669 applicants with potentially fraudulent CBT results. Affected individuals are required to resit the test and provide additional evidence or representations to prove their legitimacy. In 2024, reports emerged highlighting the impact on nearly 2,000 internationally educated Nigerian nurses. Many face significant stress from the ongoing probe. In December of 24, almost 50 nurses threatened legal actions against the NMC, alleging unfair handling, premature dismissal by employers, and visa revocations while awaiting hearings. One nurse successfully appeals a refusal of registration, with the panel accepting her evidence of preparation and evidence. Now, in this year, in February, Broad Street Solicitors, representing 48 nurses, sends a pre-action protocol letter to NMC demanding expedited appeals, reinstatement pending outcomes, and coordination with the Home Office to halt deportations. The NMC fails to respond within the 14-day deadline. In early March, by this point, NMC has conducted 12 hearings and accused registrants 10, removed from the register 2 remaining, and reviewed 200 applications. 191 refused, 9 admitted, 17 pending. So that's over 50% are being rejected. That's crazy. Now, still in March, the Home Office issues letters to affected nurses revoking visas and ordering them to leave the UK as early as March 17th. Despite pending appeals, this affects nurses under investigation, leading to reports of deportation orders for hundreds, 717 roughly, cited sources. In August to September, further reports surfaced, including a case of an African nurse facing up to 14 years in prison related to fraud and analysis 2 years after the initial hearings, noting ongoing fallout. In November, social media reports indicate thousands of Nigerian nurses served notices to leave the UK with visas revoked due to NMC fraud findings amid awaiting appeal outcomes. Ongoing as of December, nurses supported by groups like Nurse Across the Borders prepare for judicial review against the NMC. Deportations continue, with some nurses already sacked by employers, while the NMC prioritizes hearings and upholds fraud evidence on a case by case basis. Look, they can deport you and they do not have to kowtow to you. I think that's the thing that I find interesting. Even in the UK, they're trying to fight back. Well, you can't deport these. Yes, you can. They're not citizens. Yes, you can. And they can sit at home, wherever home is, until they're hearing. And if they're cleared, fine. If they're not, oh well. But I know that they had to shut down, the person sitting and taking tests for them. I can understand why this gentleman is so upset. And it is upsetting because nobody wants to see anybody fail or do bad. You want to see people succeed and do well. But why does there always have to be fraud involved? Okay, so it's not just Somalians, it's Nigerians. My whole thing is, why is it people from Africa, period? But we don't know. Like I said, there's so much fraud going on all over the place, you guys. And when all of this stuff starts coming out, it's going to be crazy. Like, I mean, I played a video last week of a gentleman. He just casually said, yeah, there's $54 billion going on in fraud in California alone. Like, it's another day at the office, $54 billion. What? Please understand, the federal government does not have to have these entitlement programs. If they wanted to shut down SNAP tomorrow, they could. Now, people would be upset about it. All they can do is be upset. But that program could be shut off. No one owes you anything, ever. I've told my own children that nobody owes you a thing. God gave you life and you better protect it and take care of it. Take care of yourself. Period. No one owes you anything. The government owes you nothing. Yeah, we pay taxes. They don't owe us anything. Period. We have benefits here in this country to help people who fall on hard times, who are not able to do for themselves, because we do have people that are disabled. We do have people that need the resources. But this fraud, this perpetual fraud going on, and people just acting like they're entitled to continue to commit this fraud, there are some people that need to be in prison right now for what's going on. Because as long as they are allowed to continue with this fraud, they're going to feel emboldened and empowered to continue to do it. People need to start going to prison. And not just the people committing the fraud, but the people on the inside pushing the button, allowing the fraud to continue. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to get into some more news Thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. We will see you on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bites can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments. So it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question. Do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And so with that, we're going to get into just a little bit more fraud before we move on. Now, this one's a little bit different.
90% fraud rate?
Yeah, so the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, submitted a lot of claims in the tune of hundreds of claims. And they were fraudulent, using a fraudulent Social Security, using fraudulent addresses, using fraudulent names, and only 10% was rejected, 90% was accepted.
Okay. Right. So that needs to be fixed. Like what? Now that's not even attached to anybody. That was just like a test run. Let's just see if the system will reject these fraudulent names, addresses, information, or will it keep paying these claims? And the system kept paying the claims. Again, it's somebody on the inside. We can't blame automation because trust me, there's a human on the inside touching this stuff, who is reviewing this stuff, who's still pushing the button to say this is approved. And with everything, I've worked in accounting, I've worked in very large organizations, small organizations. With accounting, there's always a paper trail. Somebody has to approve it along every step of the way, even if there's 3 steps, we'll just say. There's an approval process that this goes through. And this just happened. Now, again, this was the Government Accountability Office just running a test to see if fraud would occur, and it occurred over 90%. That's an issue. Okay, so this isn't tied to anybody. It was basically a test that they ran. And so here's the findings with the GAO, the Independent Congressional Watchdog, right? So I'm trying to just get to the meat of it. So the undercover covert testing, they created 20 fictitious identities and submitted applications for subsidized ACA coverage plans for 24 and 25. 19 of the 20 fake applications initially were approved for coverage. So as of September 2025, 18 remained actively enrolled and receiving subsidies totaling over $10,000 per month combined. and taxpayer-funded payments. These fake applications used invalid, never issued Social Security numbers, submitted fake documents or none at all when requested, and bypassed identity citizenship checks in many cases. This aligns closely with the 90% figure mentioned in the reel. So, the data analysis of real enrollments. The GAO reviewed marketplace data 23-24 and found indicators of potential fraud, such as tens of thousands of applications with multiple uses of the same Social Security number, thousands linked to deceased individuals, resulting in millions in subsidies paid, over 160,000 likely unauthorized plan changes by brokers in 24, and CMS received 275,000 consumer complaints in 24 about unauthorized enrollments or switches. Wow. So, for broader context, the GAO noted these vulnerabilities persist from similar undercover tests they conducted in 2014 through 2016, early ACA years, where fake applications were also routinely approved. The report criticizes the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, for not updating its fraud risk assessment since 2018, despite program growth changes, enhanced subsidies during and after COVID. Wow. That's crazy. So the report estimates improper enrollments could have cost taxpayers up to $27 billion annually, based on CBO and external analysis, with harms including higher premiums for legitimate enrollees and disrupted care for victims of identity fraud. So crazy. The GAO work was requested by Republican congressional leaders and has been cited in debates over extending enhanced ACA subsidies. The full investigation is ongoing with final results. So, dyslexia DIY. I use Grok. I'm a paralegal by trade. And so I use Grok as an aggregate to pull in information from different articles. So I'm also a chat GPT engineer. So I know how to ask it certain questions in a certain way so that I get the best aggregated information pulled. It can also read through a lot of the videos that I submit, some, not all, and it's able to pull on these broader pieces of information. So that's why I was able to come up with this search that I found. Grok is actually pretty cool. I've used some different different open AIs. I do like Grok because it tends to be fair. There are some that I've used that I'm like, that doesn't look right. And I'll go and do a little bit of further research. And I'm like, yeah, you could have pulled this, and this. But sometimes it depends on how you ask the question. But that's how I came up with this. I'm glad it's showing us. But the sad part is a lot of this fraud has been going on since 2018. So this is like 7 years now of fraud. And again, all they did was a test run to see, hey, what kind of fraud is going on? Let's just kind of see and evaluate this. But yeah, in the past 7 years, yeah, like I said, the fraud is not just in Minnesota. It's not just in California or Maine or in Massachusetts. It's widespread everywhere because unfortunately, a lot of these programs, they don't talk to one another. So Social Security office doesn't talk to the tax office, right? The tax office doesn't talk to the USDA, right? Who's over the SNAP program. They do not talk to each other. So they've got all these barriers. No one's sharing fluid information because you would think they would. They made up Social Security numbers in the ACA and just used the repeated Social Security number thousands of times. So imagine, let's just say 1,000 people getting approved for the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, right? Going completely unchecked. Because if they have a valid social security number, nobody's checking and nobody's tying back that number to that person. The number is just being used to get the services, right? They may not have a number at all, but they're getting the benefits of the service. And is the ACA perfect? It is not perfect by any means. Could it be better? Absolutely. I think there's a lot of things that they can do. Maybe about a month ago, I kind of outlined, maybe some changes that could be made in the Affordable Care Act so it's actually good, consistent care. What I would like to see personally, and this is my opinion, you might disagree, I would like to see a state-run program, and they already have them in certain places. I know in Georgia we have what's called Peach Care, and just people get insurance on a sliding scale, right? Income up to 20, 30,000. Obviously your services would be free, but 30,000 to so much. You know what I mean? But also getting some of these medical costs down. My gracious. Okay. Because, somebody that has insurance, they're paying like 400 times what somebody who's a cash payment person. Like, what are we doing? Hospitals, what are you doing? And it's mostly the hospitals. It's not even the doctor's offices. It comes to the hospitals like the emergency care and all this other craziness. And it gets weird. But at the end of the day, it still falls on the taxpayer, right? Coming out of pocket. Now, can you imagine you're paying your taxes and you have health insurance and you're being overcharged? Like, it's insulting and it's damaging. And people are literally hurting, going bankrupt to be healthy. And they're not trying to cure you. By the way, you're going to get a treatment. You're going to get a pill so you can get another pill. And if that pill actually leads to kidney failure, then we have to do all these tests. See how it's working? It's disgraceful. And we can do better as a country. We really need to. So now I'm going to get into this next video. And this is Melanie King. I've played her videos before. She's really, really cool. And this is talking about the superbug that's going on right now. As you can hear, my voice keeps going in and out, y'all. I'm sorry. Let's go.
Head into the new year, 17 states, cities, and territories across the U.S. are reporting high to very high levels of the flu. That includes right here in New York City. So far, nearly 5 million cases have been reported nationwide, and at least 1,900 people have died. And that might be because fewer Americans are getting their flu shot. At this time last year, 13 million more flu vaccine doses had been administered. Katie Weiss has more on the warning from doctors.
We're going to continue this, but I decided to talk about this today because, as you can hear from my voice, well, I got this mystery flu, this illness, where all of a sudden, guys, I got back from New York and I was fine, perfectly fine, not sick, nothing wrong. And then, my goodness, I experienced, at first my throat was scratchy, and then I had this cough where it was so painful to cough. It was like, I would rather just not like try to hold in a cough because it hurt that bad to cough. Yesterday, I was in the bed all day. I couldn't even get up. I could not do anything. I couldn't get up to do, even having to get up to go to the bathroom, which I had to go to the bathroom quite a bit, was such a struggle. It's a fatigue. And I just said, Lord, why am I getting sick like this? Like, this doesn't make any sense, and I didn't know anything about anyone else getting sick. I hadn't heard anything. Then suddenly I go on my phone and I go on TikTok because I was looking for content because I kept saying yesterday, oh, even though I'm sick, I'm going to try to film. I couldn't. I looked up nothing about being sick. Then suddenly I'm getting on my feed All of these people talking about this mystery illness that they're getting, that they've tested for, they went and got tested for the flu and for COVID, tested negative for everything, but somehow they're still sick. And for a lot of people, this is lasting weeks and weeks and weeks. I still have it, but I'm able to talk right now. I'm able actually to do this. So it's kind of a weird dynamic that I'm in, because it's just like, why is this happening to me? And I realized, okay, God, that's where you want my attention to be, because what have we been talking about? They've talked about the multiple vaccines that are going to come out for the new pandemics. We know that they have been planning, or they've talked about a pandemic is coming, a pandemic's coming. I've shown you those videos where they've talked about it over and over. I also showed you the vaccine passport not only being on digital ID that has rolled out in the US and has rolled out worldwide, but that Bill Gates now has the technology. We did a whole video on it where it's just a patch. You can put it on your skin. And what it does is it inserts quantum dots in a QR code embedded permanently under your skin that can then act as a vaccine passport. We've talked about, is that the mark of the beast or not? To me, it's the only thing that I've seen. I don't think Neuralink is it. It's too cumbersome. Elon Musk is talking about how they have to remove the back of the skull to fit all the wires and all that. That is something else, right? Right? But if we talk about something that can mass roll out, that essentially goes on your skin like a Band-Aid, it presses in, you peel it off, and you don't see anything on the top of the skin, but it's underneath for the vaccine passport. And now, if we think about it, this is once again rolling out in December. Last time, COVID, what happened with that? If you don't understand, COVID, COVID, that means one thing, but if you add the D-19, that's December 19th, December. That is what happened with that. And it started with this. And the last time that COVID broke out, guys, I had went to New York on a trip. On the plane back, I got really sick. And it was right after that everything happened. Everything happened with COVID. So as I'm seeing this pattern, guys, I want to make you aware of it and what's going on. It's not because people aren't getting more of their flu vaccines. We know what happens with the chemtrails and all the ways that they can distribute. They say that they can even distribute vaccines through food. They can do it.
So I'm going to stop right there because our video is kind of long, but I just wanted to show that part of the video. Now I'm going to jump to another video. Now, there was a flu warning about a month ago, and then about a couple days ago, around the 27th, there was another update on this flu. So I wanted to play those videos.
Flu strain that health experts warn could make for a nasty flu season. The new strain is called subclade K, and it's already spread overseas. Japan, they've already declared an influenza epidemic, and the UK flu season started a month earlier than usual. ABC News medical contributor Dr. Alok Patel joins us now with what we need to know about this. Dr. Patel, thank you for joining us again. How is this strain different from other flu strains, and why are health experts worried about it?
Important questions, Ike. So basically, when you think about what a subclade actually is, that word literally means below branch, and it's in the family tree of influenza viruses. So when people hear these letters and these numbers like H3N2, that is influenza A. When there's mutations on those surface proteins, the proteins on the outside of the virus, that's when we get to subclade. So subclade K has mutations on those proteins. People are paying attention because we're seeing cases earlier and we're seeing more cases in places, as you mentioned, across the world, with subclade K now being identified in Japan, Canada, and the UK. It's still unclear about what this might actually do to the US, but this is definitely why the global surveillance influenza system, yes, that exists, is on high alert.
Now, are there current flu vaccines effective against this new strain?
So the flu vaccine was actually created in a different subclade later in spring, and researchers are concerned that there may have been some mutations on the proteins that could make this flu vaccine less effective. However, early data does suggest there is some effectiveness, and an important thing that I want everyone to understand is the flu vaccine isn't perfect. No vaccine is. The percentage of effectiveness varies from season to season, but there is some good preliminary data out of the UK, and researchers believe that this flu vaccine this season has still a probability of protecting you and keeping you away from winding up in the hospital or getting severe disease. So it's still a really good idea to get that shot if you haven't already.
All right, now along with that flu shot, what else can people do to protect themselves?
Yeah, mentioned getting the flu shot, but also big surprise, please stay home if you are sick. You don't necessarily know what those symptoms really are. This is especially important if you're high risk, if you're going to see someone who's high risk, because anyone who might just have a common cold might not think it's a big deal, but it could be devastating in somebody else.
All right, Dr. Alok Patel.
Okay, now that again, that was a month ago. Now this was just from a few days ago.
Those 3 stories on our social media, and you decide what we take a closer look at. Now this week's choices: new flu strain, silver prices up, and post-holiday deals. And with 59% of the vote, you chose what to know about the new flu strain. And Dr. Alok Patel is here to answer the call. This is top of mind for many visiting family and friends, doctor. So what do we need to know about this year's flu strain?
Well, happy Saturday, Ike. I will tell people that flu cases are rising in many parts of the country. I saw a lot of cases in the hospital. I'm still in my scrubs and glasses, like fresh from the scene. So flu cases are likely related to this variant of H3N2 or influenza A, which scientists are calling subclade K. Now, this is a variant of the influenza strain that the vaccine was modeled after. It's got a few mutations on it, and this may be contributing to the really high level of flu cases we're seeing in New York State, throughout the Midwest, and in various other states, and cases are rising right now. We have at least 4.6 million cases with 50,000 hospitalizations, 2,000 deaths, all attributed to the flu. We would not put up with these numbers from any other cause. We should not put up with them when it comes to influenza.
Now, millions of Americans still on the move this week. What should they know as they hit the road and board planes?
Oh, great question. What people should know is we may see numbers start to uptick after all these gatherings, which is what we see after holidays such as Thanksgiving, which we may see after Christmas, Hanukkah, and New Year's. So as you go to travel, think about all those crowded groups of people. Make sure that you are washing your hands. If you're coughing, sneezing, or laughing, you are covering your mouth. If you have symptoms, unfortunately, consider staying home for the better of the community, especially those who are high risk. If you must travel, wear a mask, and it is not too late, and it's very recommended to still get a flu shot. It does take about 2 weeks to take full effect, but you'll get protection immediately. Even with this variant, the flu shot is still estimated to prevent severe illnesses and hospitalization.
Now, you just mentioned that.
Now, it's interesting. He keeps pushing this flu shot.
If we start to feel sick, what symptoms should we actually be on the lookout for?
I know people want to have a respiratory illness, crystal ball, but it's really hard to tell the difference between various colds. People text me this all the time saying, hey, doc, do I have coronavirus, influenza, or RSV? You might just have those early cold and flu symptoms such as coughing, sneezing, sore throat, maybe some muscle aches. But here's what's important. If you do suspect that you have influenza or COVID, there are antiviral treatment options to help reduce how long you have symptoms for and reduce the spread. So it's a good idea to go and swab and get tested, because you might be able to take an antiviral such as Tamiflu for influenza as long as you start that quickly, usually within 48 hours of symptoms.
All right, Dr. Alok Patel.
Yeah. And I just played, both of those because it was like, okay, I found it kind of interesting. A month ago they were talking about it, and then a couple of days ago, I was like, wow, you're talking about the same thing. Okay. And, playing the video from Melanie, she was stating that, there were some people getting tested and they were testing negative for COVID and the flu. So what is this? Right? And if they don't have a panel for it, what is it? Now I'm going to get into her next video, but before I do that, I did want to, take a pit stop. Because I, as a paralegal, I kind of do research some of these things. And he was talking about these vaccines. And, I've worked on different cases for medical injury of devices and also medication. So that's a little bit of my background for some work that I've done. And I said, can you outline the ingredients in the most recent flu vaccine? Because I know there have been some changes. And I just wanted to know. So the active components. So here, that's a Victoria, like the virus, Croatia, like the virus, and Austria, it's like the virus. So it's like a similar strain of the virus. And this is a slight variant exists depending on production method, egg-based, cell-based, or um, recombinant. And then here's the other active ingredients: stabilizers, salts, and buffers, formaldehyde, because that's always good to put in a vaccine. I'm just saying, we use it to embalm people, but hey, we can put it in a vaccine, right? Tiny residual amounts. It's still disgusting. It's used to inactivate the virus far less than naturally present in the human body. Octyl, whatever that long word is, sorry, I can't pronounce it. Triton X100, it's a detergent used in manufacturing to split viruses, residual trace in some egg-based vaccines like Fluzone. Sucrose or gelatin to stabilize the vaccine, antibiotics, trace amounts, such as neomycin or polymyx to prevent bacterial contamination during production. It's not present in all brands. It's interesting that an antibiotic would be used in a vaccine because usually antibiotics are used for things that are bacterial, not viral. But they said they're using it as to prevent bacterial contamination. So it's interesting. Egg proteins and egg-based vaccines only, and an adjuvant, hopefully I'm saying that right, in specific vaccines like flawed for ages 65 over, MF59, squalene oil, polysorbate 80, Subordian tolerate to boost immune response. And I know doctors have talked a lot about this whole adjuvant thing could go awry. People talk about like storms in the body. Yeah, whiskey shots. Hey, look, it works for some people because it makes your temperature rise and it burns everything off. I'm just saying, I don't drink whiskey, but I've heard about those treatments. Preservatives, thermosol, right? In some multi-dose vials only. Most vaccines are single dose and thermosol free per CDC recommendations. And there was one comment that I wanted to go back to, and it says, no, I'm not reading that. But thank you guys for all of your comments. I'm just trying to keep it moving. But those are some of the things that I was looking at. And I said, what are the active ingredients? Can you give me the link to the patent for the vaccine? And so it went through the different vaccines, but I was like, I wanted a link. And then I asked, I said, do they contain mRNA? So no, the 25-26 seasonal influenza vaccines available in the United States do not use mRNA. At one point they did. And so I kept asking. I said, no, there are no older seasonal vaccines on the market. So again, I kept asking. So I was like, wait a minute, because they were promoting it. They were literally out there saying, hey, these have mRNA. This is good for you. So I kept asking. I said, no. From 22 to 24 did not include any that use for influenza mRNA technology. It says mRNA-based flu vaccine from companies like Moderna, right, and Pfizer were in clinical trials during this period, including phase 3 trials starting in 22 to 23, but none received FDA approval or became commercially available until potentially later, with submissions planned for 26 or beyond based on ongoing developments as of late 25. That says there were commercials in 23-24 encouraging people to get COVID or flu vaccines that had mRNA. Sorry, I spelled flu wrong. Yes, there were numerous commercials and public service announcements in 23 and 24 encouraging people to get updated COVID 19 vaccinations, many of which used mRNA technology, specifically from Pfizer and Moderna. However, no flu vaccines available during these years. So there was a difference between the COVID 19 and the flu. Because I heard chatter of, oh, they're combining the vaccines, COVID and flu. And so I haven't gotten vaccinated. Oh gosh, it's been well over 15 years because I just got too sick in my immune system. I was like, okay, I'm getting a vaccine, but I'm sicker more. So I just stopped taking it. Now I'm well. My point is, what I'm getting to is I wanted to show that there is a difference between maybe the flu vaccines that are coming out now and the ones that were out. Flu vaccines don't have the mRNA in them, but these COVID 19 shots do. And they do change your genetic coding, and you need to be careful. I'm grateful that they're not putting the mRNA in the flu vaccines, but in my opinion, don't trust them. Do not. Anything foreign that you're putting in your body, you're going to have to deal with it for a long time. And these shots are nothing nice. They're not. And they're not helping. And they're lowering people's immune systems, which is unfortunate. So that's why I wanted to get to that briefly. Just wanted to, and these links will all be in the repost just so you can see for yourself the ingredients. Because in my opinion, it's always important to understand what the ingredients are and what they will do to your body once in your body. Okay. And we don't really stop and think about those things. I also tied it back to the SPARS scenario. If anybody's familiar with the SPARS pandemic scenario, because the one thing that we have to be really top of mind is, are they going to try this again? We already went through this, 5 years ago? Are they going to try this again? I don't put anything past people. Just saying. So SPARS kind of outlined an outbreak. I don't know why they use Minnesota. A rapid domestic and international spread, early communication dilemmas about known virus, potential treatments. Now, this was just Johns Hopkins, and this is a scenario. What I found interesting about the scenario were some correlations that they had. Like, this scenario begins in late 2025 during the administration of newly elected President Randall Archer, who served as vice president under Jacqueline Bennett from 2020 to 2024. President Bennett did not seek re-election due to health concerns, leading to Archer's election in November 24 and inauguration in 25. Why would they say that this person's had health concerns when we just went through an election last year when somebody actually stepped down to not run due to health concerns? Now, you got to remember, this whole thing from Johns Hopkins was put together in 2017. A lot of people found out about this in 2020. The reason I'm bringing it back up now is because it's very telling what they were showing in this, scenario that they put out there. It's just, like I said, very telling. Very telling. The pandemic peaks in 26, and the vaccine Coravax development and emergency use authorization challenges with production delays, priority group allocation. So we kind of lived through some of what was in there. But again, I wanted to bring it up again to show some of these similarities. Like, why were we talking about this in such a way that it's played itself out? And I found it interesting. Again, I'll make sure that I attach this. The recovery phase focus shifts to long-term side effects, lawsuits, rebuilding public trust, and resolutions of the pandemic. That's where we're at right now. As hypothetical as this is, the SPARS document, in my opinion, it's eerily similar to what we've gone through and what we might go through. So I want to end this with another video that Melanie had put out.
For me, like a rehearsal.
There will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic. It may be next year.
You know, we just need to mess around. There's a lot of lipid nanoparticles, and some are very self-assembly.
We know what's next. A new wave of pandemics is going to be upon us.
I'm convinced that there will be another pandemic.
Oh, certainly we'll have one in the next 25 years. You know, there's even some pathogens out there that we're watching over right now. And so I'd probably put bioterror, which is a really awful.
We are going to see a whole new age of biological weapons. We have to grapple with that reality because that is what is coming.
I can't go into all the details, but there are man-made threats that we were prepared to deal with.
When the next pandemic comes knocking, and it will, we must be ready to answer decisively.
You know, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, you know, I'd say is will get attention this time.
Did you notice Bill Gates smiles? He's like laughing, hysterical, excited. I mean, every clip of him. I'm going to mute this because I just want to. He's so excited. Look at this. It's like a kid in a candy store. He's like excited about this. It's called Duper's Delight when sociopaths, where they can't help but show their joy, their excitement when they know that they've done something wrong, when they know they've hurt someone, they know they've done something evil, and they're getting away with it. Look it up. This is a real known thing with psychopaths. Duper's Delight. Now, I brought you the video earlier, and I've played this one before, but I wanted to play it again because right now, there's an unprecedented amount of flu cases. Really, it's unknown. People are testing for flu, testing for COVID. They're not coming up positive for either one. I'm one of those people where I got sick. I was in New York. I came back. I was perfectly fine. Then all of a sudden, boom, it just hit me. Like within an hour, I went from perfectly fine to just laid out. I could barely move. It was just a nightmare. Like I could not, breathing hurt so bad when I coughed. Oh my gosh. I was doing everything I could not to cough, but I had to. It's just been nasty. And I'm seeing thousands of videos pop up, particularly on TikTok about this. And I didn't know this was going on. So I was just like, okay, maybe I got it. Well, I got this now, and it just started popping up just magically on my TikTok. I didn't look up anything. Did not look up anything about being sick, but magically it knew to show it to me. And I was just like, well, why am I getting sick? This doesn't make sense. But maybe this is where God wants my attention because of what's been going on. And I have talked to you guys about over and over that one of the main drivers of digital ID is going to be a vaccine passport. Right? And not just on the phone, the digital ID right now, but where is that moving to? Bill Gates, the same person I've played you, that he now has the technology, has been unveiled, that you just put on kind of like a sticker and it inserts quantum dots under your skin and a QR code that will act as a vaccine passport. Then you peel it off and it's already deposited under your skin and it's permanent and cannot be removed, right? So this is what's been going on, but let me show you some more. Look at this. New York Department of Health announces most flu cases ever recorded in 1 week. That includes before the pandemic last time, which it all started out as a flu. This is what they were saying. It was just some type of flu, just a bug going around, just a bug. But now it's breaking records that even we did not see with the coronavirus. Okay? So these are people who are testing positive for the flu. But do you know there's thousands of cases, millions of cases where they're not testing positive for anything. It's some type of weird mutation, right? And this has been coming out, and it's so funny. Ground zero for all of these cases seems to be New York. This is what happened to me. In 2019. I went to New York in December. I had an event I had to go to. On the plane back, I started to feel sick, and it was the most sick I had ever felt. By the time I got home, I even clipped it for you guys to see it. There's a guy on YouTube that broke it down beautifully. But look at this, just to highlight, and it may be a little pixelated, but because I'm like trying to blow up a small picture. But one of the things I noticed outside of war, outside of the economy collapsing, the stock market crashing, outside of, where's the dollar? There's a dollar sign that's being cracked and smashed. If I have something to bring you guys about tokenization and digital currency that is rolling out worldwide, here in the US as well. But look, there's needles and pills everywhere. Look, they have all of these pills and needles. I mean, pills are in every corner of this thing. But then they had these 2 giant vaccine needles. Hopefully you can see it. Sorry, I'm looking over here. Right? Along with the pills. So this was something that they know was going to happen for 2026 coming out. Buckle up. Not only are we heading into a year of war that they have all predicted, okay? All right, 250th anniversary of the United States. Notice the flag is behind a protest fist because, sorry, you can't see it. It's behind a protest fist because I told you with it chained, because you're not allowed to protest. The laws that are coming on the books right now, right? And if you've not heard this, and I've gone over it several times, there are currently almost 20 bills right now that are being legislated in Congress, bipartisan, meaning Republican and Democrats, that effectively end freedom of speech, particularly online. And not only that, but it forces everyone to get a digital ID. All right, now that's a whole nother topic than what we're saying. It all ties into each other, but understand what is coming. So that's when I tell you guys, when they say resistance is futile, we've seen in movies and things, like they mean it. They have this thing planned. They have been planning this for decades, right? They have been leading up to this point. No matter what administration, no matter who it is, it all is 2 wings of the same bird, the left wing and the right wing. And you've got to take your mind out of the matrix of a left and right and all of these kind of culture war issues that they have us fighting about. Because while everyone is fighting about those things and a bunch of other nonsense right now, we are about to be not only in a digital prison, but we're going to be essentially in a pandemic prison. That this is what they're telling me. I don't know what else to tell you. And then all the other information that I have and that I've been showing you proves this out.
Ich bin der festen Überzeugung, dass das, was wir gesehen haben während der Corona-Maßnahmenpolitik, dass das ein Testrun, ein Testlauf für was Größeres gewesen ist. Man hat ganz genau die Systeme getestet, wie weit man mit repressiven Maßnahmen gehen kann, um die Bürgerrechte einzuschränken und inwieweit die Menschen mitmachen durch Manipulation, Agitation und Propaganda durch die Medien. Das ist alles eine Begleitung gewesen des politmedialen Komplexes, um die Leute einfach komplett fertig zu machen. Mit einem der größten Lügen überhaupt, genauso wie mit der Angst vor dem Klimawandel. Es ist genau der gleiche Mechanismus. Ich bin der festen Überzeugung, dass
So I'm going to mute it and I'm just going to scroll it through and read it for you guys, for those who could not see it on the screen. I'm firmly convinced that what we witnessed during the COVID policy measures was a test run, a trial run for something much bigger. They precisely tested systems to see how far they could go with repressive measures to restrict civil rights and to what extent people would comply through media manipulation, agitation, and propaganda. This was all orchestrated by the political media complex to completely break people down with one of the biggest lies ever, just with climate change. I mean, I think it's just like with climate change. It was fear. It's exactly the same mechanism. And speaking of that, I mean, they're just, have you guys seen King Charles? Have you seen this? I don't even know if I want to play the whole thing. I'll play it. He just talks so slow, but let me play it for you guys on what he's talking about. His Christmas address, guys. This is what he's talking about at Christmas. It's wild. What do I tell you? You can't just look at what's happening today. You can't just look at what's happening in the U.S. You got to look at the past, put it in perspective what's happening now, what they say is going to happen in the future, but then also globally. Globally, if you are not looking at this globally, you're missing it. You're going to miss everything. You are not safe and protected just because you're in the U.S. We are part of all of this. We're part of all of this. All right? Democrat or Republican, it does not matter. None of that matters anymore. And hopefully you guys are starting to see this as things are rolling out. And it just seems like the government and the world and these agencies and world leaders are just blatantly open about it now. They don't even care. They don't care what you think. They don't care about your votes. They don't care about any of that. And they've told you why. We don't matter anymore. We don't. They have already planned every step to remove all possible obstacles for them completing this agenda.
Without swift and immediate action at an unprecedented pace and scale, we will miss the window of opportunity to reset for a green-blue recovery and a more sustainable and inclusive future. In other words, the global pandemic is a wake-up call we simply cannot ignore. Having been at this now for well over 40 years, I have long observed that people tend not to act until there is a real crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, that crisis has been with us for far too many years, decried, denigrated, and denied. It is now rapidly becoming a comprehensive catastrophe that will dwarf the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. At this late stage, I can see no other way forward but to call for a Marshall-like plan for nature, people, and planet. With the planetary emergency so critical, with the permafrost melting in Siberia, for instance, producing dire effects on global warming, and with the Pantanal in Brazil being consumed by unprecedented numbers of fires, we can no longer go on like this, as if there was no tomorrow and no ultimate reckoning for our abuse of nature. So, what do we do? Without doubt, we must now put ourselves on a warlike footing, approaching our action from the perspective of a military-style campaign. That way, working together, we can combat this most grave and urgent challenge. If we have the resolve to shift our trajectory, we must start now by bringing forward our net zero target.
Now, I'll play it to there, and then I'll definitely post the link to the video. But the correlation that I found fascinating was the one lady that was the diplomat who basically said, hey, we've carried out this hoax, like the climate hoax, basically. I'm paraphrasing, but she said that. And then he comes back in a different video talking about, we've got to fight climate change like an army. It's like, bro, the jig is up. The jig is up. Your people are very arrogant and they are just out in the street not caring, saying anything, saying the truth. They're telling us the truth. You've lied to all of us. You have put something fairly real out there, but you've lied to all of us. And you got us chasing our tails. We humans, we're not taking up for this anymore. We're going to do what we have to do as humans. And here in America, we need to stand up against anything coming after us this time that looks crazy. They tried this the last time. We know the lingo. We know how you move. We know what you've done and how you set us up for failure. And so it's time for us to move accordingly. But sincerely, Lawless, thank you so much for reposting the stream, and good morning to you as well. And the last part I wanted to look at was, I did ask if the World Health Organization had a protocol for this year, and they do. Issues and official recommendations, often referred to as guidelines. So twice a year on the composition of flu vaccines based on global surveillance data to target the most prevalent or anticipated flu strains. So for the current 25-26 Northern Hemisphere flu, which is ongoing as of December 25, the WHO announced in February these specify the virus strains to include in trivalent vaccines. Okay, so H1N1, H3N2, you might hear that variant, the Victoria lineage-like virus. So these recommendations guide vaccine production and are available on the WHO website. And the reason why I brought that up is because this is what we've got to look out for. So in late 25, an H3N2 subclade, remember that doctor kept saying subclade, referred to as K or J.2.4.1, has become dominant in some regions, potentially reducing vaccine match against milder illnesses through vaccination, though vaccination still offers protection against severe outcomes. In my opinion, vaccines do not help unless they're actual clean vaccines. They don't. And we haven't had clean vaccines since pretty much their inception, right? With the smallpox, they figured out an inoculation, right? Because the milkmaids were in proximities to the cows, and because they were kind of exposed to the raw milk, they, it just, in short, they had immunity, right? They had developed a type of immunity. And I'm just using smallpox as an example, but that's where we get our inoculations from. In my opinion, yeah, my grandson got me sick. I hate it. But it's a form of an inoculation. I have an immune system so that I can actually fight through the virus and come out better on the other side. But yeah, there are some things I got to do. I've definitely started to eat a little bit cleaner, right? I got my green juice going. I'm using my peroxide protocols. I'm using my iodine protocols. I'm not trying to take too many chemicals and put those into my body so that my body can, really flush out any toxins. So that if I come across somebody who has this type of flu or this strain, my body recognizes it and I can fight against it. I haven't been this sick since 2020. So it's been about 5 years since I've gotten this kind of sick. I don't want it to happen again. We keep fighting. But for all of you out there that are, going through it, because I'm sure, a lot more people are between now and I would say probably February, March, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. So do what you have to do and what's best for your body. I bring up these videos and I look this research up in Grok to keep us more informed about what is next and what's coming. Because they're mad that the United States is no longer buying into the World Health Organization and the UN and the Paris Accord and all these other things going on. Trust me, they're upset about that because we come with money, and a lot of these other countries don't have that kind of bankroll. And so that's why they want us there at the table. It's not because they care, they just know we have the bankroll. And we need to stand up against these leaders. As you heard on the video, Fauci was like, oh, yeah, there's going to be another pandemic. You got Bill Gates laughing. Yeah, what is wrong with you? And yes, in my opinion, he needs to be put in prison for illegally practicing, and giving medical advice, not being a medical doctor. I'm not giving any medical advice. I'm just sharing with you guys what I've done. If you guys have any protocols, please share. Viruses are what they are, and we're always going to have them. But are we going to have people actually doing gain of function and making them stronger than they would normally be? Because viruses, like everything, should die off. There are some viruses that are unfortunately forever, like the chickenpox. That's why people will suffer later in life because it lies dormant. Yeah, chickenpox is a form of herpes. It is disgusting. And for some reason it was airborne. And you could catch it being around somebody else who had it, like a fever. Now, if somebody had just told people, hey, chickenpox is like herpes, everybody would have just been like, no, you need to kill this off and die it off. You rarely hear about, kids getting chickenpox now. The varicella shot, which is a vaccine. Unfortunately, some people's bodies cannot handle that shot. But you never heard about people dying in mass from the chickenpox. Maybe it's time we start building up people's immune systems, putting better food in the environment, taking the chemicals out of the environment so that humans are stronger. That might be an idea. Just saying. But with that, we're going to end the broadcast for today for this Monday recap. Tomorrow will be Tell It All Tuesday. And then Wednesday is going to be our open mic, just like last week. So just think about it. If anybody wants a mic for Wednesday, please let me know. You can email me at unfilteredvisionnews@gmail.com to get that mic sent to you, or you can direct message me on X. So with that, again, we're going to end our broadcast. So remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.